This controller is supposed to be the ultimate retro PlayStation controller, but it's got a few things preventing it from being perfect. Let's talk about it. So a little while ago, I made a video about emulating PS2 games on my Steam Deck, and in that video I wanted to not only emulate games in handheld mode, but I also wanted to be able to play them on a TV as well. So as a result, I purchased this controller, and a handful of you on that video suggested I do a full review on this, so well, here it is. This is the Defender from Retro Fighters. It's a wireless rechargeable controller that works with PC, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation Classic, PS1, PS2, and PS3. Wow. Out of the box, you get a USB-C charging cable, the controller itself, along with two wireless 2.4 GHz receivers, one of which is specifically for the PS1 and PS2. The other is a traditional USB receiver that can be used for the PS3, Switch, PC, or in my case, the Steam Deck. It comes in 4 select colors, including translucent blue or green, solid black, and then of course this gray one here. As far as the overall build quality is concerned, it definitely feels really good in the hands. It's not what I would necessarily call premium, but it's definitely not cheap feeling. The thumbsticks feel decent, the large D-pad feels okay, more on that later, and the pressure-sensitive triangle, square, circle, and X buttons feel nice and tactile. And yes, I called this the X button. I refuse to call it cross, regardless of what the propaganda says. Anyway, more on the controller. The shoulder buttons are maybe a tad skinny for my liking, but they feel good when pressed down. And the triggers are nice, although I'm not the biggest fan of this hyper-extended curve. But you know what? They feel comfortable when holding it, and you know, it does the job just fine. It may also be worth noting that the triggers on the back can be a little bit sensitive. Some Amazon reviews that I have read really kind of complained about how sensitive these triggers were, and some people found themselves accidentally pressing them a lot in game. Admittedly, it did happen to me once or twice when I first started using this, just because my hands want to naturally rest on those triggers, but after playing for a little bit, I got used to it pretty quickly. Not a huge deal for me, but it can be quite annoying for some people, especially if you're someone who really likes to rest your hands like this on the controller, and you know, if you have a tendency to accidentally push down and that sort of thing. Yeah, just something to be mindful of. Lastly, the controller does have turbo functionality if you want to utilize that, and there's also a home button that can double as an analog switch for the PS1 games that support it. To use this controller with either your PS1 or PS2, simply plug in the appropriate dongle to your console of choice, press the home button so that all 4 lights are flashing on the controller, and then press the pair button on the back side, and the controller should pair automatically with the dongle. The Defender has an advertised battery life of a little over 10 hours, which is pretty accurate, I would say, with what I got after a single charge. I didn't completely accurately measure the length of time that the battery lasted for, but I would say roughly around 10 hours is about what it was, if not maybe just a little less. Playing this controller with my retro systems has been a pretty good experience. However, it may be a bit of a mixed bag depending on the games that you want to play. You see, the D-pad on the Defender, while totally usable, leaves a bit to be desired. It's a little hard to explain. It's not necessarily mushy, it's just, it doesn't have much feel or resistance to it when being pressed down. And on top of that, it is possible to accidentally get diagonal inputs on the D-pad, so it did take me a little bit getting used to when playing something like Tony Hawk or Crash 2. It was with PS1 titles where I found the D-pad to be more problematic, because obviously those tend to rely on the D-pad more, whereas playing the PS2, those rely typically more on the analog sticks, and playing PS2 games was totally fine with this controller. Playing games like Vice City or NBA Street or Jak and Daxter all work totally fine. Again, it's more dependent upon the games that you want to play and whether or not you are willing to sort of acclimate yourself to the D-pad. Oh, and as far as latency is concerned, I didn't notice any discernible latency, at least nothing that really hindered my gameplay experience. I've seen some reviews where people had issues with this, specifically with the PS1. I don't know if that was a firmware fix or not, but yeah, for me personally, no issues on that front whatsoever. Now, while I really like this controller for PS1 and PS2 purposes, if you're looking to get this for the PS3, I would honestly consider waiting. You see, even though this comes with a USB dongle that works with the PS3, and this does work with most PS3 games, it's missing 6-axis support. So certain games like Heavy Rain, for example, that heavily utilize this feature, they aren't going to work with this controller. If that's a big issue for you, Retro Fighters is working on a PS3 specific controller similar to this one, and it's going to be coming out sometime in the future. Whenever that drops, if you want to see that reviewed, be sure to let me know by leaving a like on this video. Now, regarding the D-pad and the PS3, I know that may seem a little bit negative, but I do thoroughly like this controller, at least for my personal use case. I primarily use this for playing my PS2 and for playing emulated games on my Steam Deck, and for that purpose, it's been excellent. And it's honestly probably one of the best wireless controllers you can get if you want to play original PlayStation hardware. Just, again, if you're really a big stickler about D-pads, or you're trying to find something to replace an old PS3 controller, then I would really at least consider thinking twice before making a purchase of this. And if you want to pick up one of these controllers for yourself and support the channel along the way, I will leave Amazon affiliate links in the description down below. And that about does it for this one, everyone. Thank you as always for watching the video and checking out the channel. If you like this type of content, let us know by hitting that like button or dislike button. Either way, it really helps the channel out with the YouTube algorithm. And leave a comment down below on what your favorite PS1, PS2, or PS3 game is. Feel free to hit us up on any of our social media platforms, including our Discord community server, all listed in the description down below. And yeah, that's enough rambling out of me. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Blake, and for all things tech, games, to really anything nerdy in between, be sure and subscribe to Digital Cynics. Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you next time. Oh, I totally forgot to mention, this does support Rumble, so you will feel vibration in the controllers. It feels fine, you know, it's whatever. And price, this is, I think I paid a little over 15 bucks after tax. I think it's $49.99 or something like that on Amazon right now. So yeah, okay, that's it. Bye now.